Act 1. The Last Sighting. Because it's there. With those 3 simple words, British mountaineer George Mallory immortalized the spirit of exploration. In the early 1920s, after the North and South Poles had been reached, Mount Everest remained the third pole, the last great unconquered frontier on Earth. To climb it was not just a challenge of physical endurance, but a battle against the very limits of human possibility. And no one embodied that battle more than George Mallory. By 1924, Mallory was already a legend, a veteran of 2 previous Everest expeditions. He was determined that the third attempt would be the one. The technology of the era was primitive by today's standards. The climbers wore tweed jackets and leather boots, and relied on bulky, experimental oxygen apparatuses that were as likely to fail as they were to help. For the final push to the summit, Mallory made a crucial choice of partner. He selected Sandy Irvine, a 22-year-old engineering student from Oxford. While Irvine was a strong climber, he was a novice at high altitude. But he was an expert with the delicate oxygen equipment, and Mallory trusted his technical skill. On the morning of June 8, 1924, Mallory and Irvine left their highest camp, Camp 6, and began their ascent towards the summit. They were stepping into the death zone, the thin air above 8,000 meters where the human body can no longer survive. They were not completely unobserved. Lower down the mountain, at Camp V, the expedition's geologist, Noel Odell, was watching their progress. At 12:50 p.m., the clouds that had shrouded the peak momentarily parted. Through a small clearing, Odell caught a glimpse of 2 tiny black dots moving determinately up the final summit ridge. He saw them ascend a difficult rock feature known as the second step, a location so high on the mountain that it suggested they were making excellent time. In his diary, he wrote that they were going strong for the top. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the view was swallowed by the mist. The clouds closed in, and the 2 figures were gone. Noel Odell waited, scanning the mountain for any sign of their return. But there was nothing. George Mallory and Sandy Irvine had vanished into the thin, cold air of the world's highest mountain, leaving behind the greatest mystery in the history of exploration. Act 2. The Body in the Clouds. For 75 years, the question of what happened to Mallory and Irvine became the defining mystery of mountaineering. Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay were officially celebrated as the first to conquer Everest in 1953, but their historic achievement always carried a small asterisk. Did Mallory and Irvine get there first, 3 decades earlier? The mountain held its secret, and the legend only grew with time. Over the decades, a few tantalizing clues surfaced. In 1933, another British expedition found an ice axe high on the mountain's northeast ridge, which was identified as belonging to Sandy Irvine. The location of the axe suggested the point from which one or both of them may have fallen. But without the bodies, it was just another piece in an unsolvable puzzle. The mystery remained frozen in time until 1999, when a dedicated team of climbers, the Mallory and Irvine Research Expedition, set out with a singular goal: to find the lost explorers and, with any luck, the camera they carried, which could rewrite history. The team, led by Eric Simonson and featuring some of the world's best climbers, focused their search on a treacherous, snow-filled basin on the north face of Everest, a debris field where bodies of other climbers who had fallen from the ridge had been found before. On May 1, 1999, at an altitude of nearly 27,000 feet, American mountaineer Conrad Anker was scanning the rocky terrain when he spotted a patch of white that stood out against the gray rock and snow. It was, in his words, whiter than snow. As he climbed closer, the white patch resolved into a shape. It was the back and torso of a human body, frozen solid into the mountainside. The scene was surreal. The body was lying face down, arms outstretched above its head, as if clutching the scree for dear life. Its back muscles were perfectly preserved, bleached white by 75 years of exposure to the relentless sun and wind. The clothing, a simple wool and cotton windbreaker, was tattered and torn away by the elements. The team approached with reverence. They carefully searched the pockets and collar of the man's shirt, looking for any form of identification. Tucked into his collar, they found a small, faded name tag. On it were the words, G. Lee Mallory. After 3/4 of a century lost in the clouds, the legendary climber had finally been found. Act 3. The clue in his pocket. The discovery of George Mallory's body was a monumental achievement, but it was also the beginning of a new investigation, conducted at 27,000 feet. The climbers carefully examined the artifacts found with him, searching for clues that might solve the 75-year-old mystery. In his pockets, they found a collection of personal items that painted an intimate portrait of the man. A pocket knife, a tin of beef lozenges, an altimeter, and a perfectly preserved, handwritten letter from his family. But it was what they didn't find that was the most significant. Mallory had made a promise to his beloved wife, Ruth. He carried a photograph of her with him on the expedition, and he swore to her that if he reached the summit of Everest, he would leave her picture there. The Discovery team meticulously searched every pocket and fold of Mallory's clothing. His wallet was there, containing letters and notes, but the photograph of his wife was gone. This discovery sent a jolt through the mountaineering world. The missing photograph was a powerful piece of circumstantial evidence. Did its absence mean that Mallory had fulfilled his promise? Did he stand on the roof of the world and leave his wife's picture there before beginning his fatal descent? For many, this was proof enough. But the physical evidence on his body told a more complex and tragic story. The team found a severe rope jerk injury around his waist, the telltale sign of a violent fall where 2 climbers were roped together. This confirmed he and Irvine were still connected when the accident happened. His right leg was badly broken, with both the tibia and fibula fractured. The most devastating injury, however, was a large golf ball-sized puncture wound in his forehead. This was likely the fatal blow, perhaps caused by his own ice axe as he tumbled uncontrollably down the steep, rocky slope. The rope tied around his waist was snapped. Had it broken under the strain of the fall, or was it cut? Some have speculated that one of the men, perhaps Irvine, may have cut the rope to save himself from being pulled down with Mallory. Though this is a deeply controversial theory, the evidence painted a grim picture of Mallory's final moments, but it failed to answer the ultimate question. The missing photograph suggested he had reached the summit, the location of his body, far below the main climbing route, and the nature of his injuries pointed to a catastrophic fall. Could both be true? Could Mallory and Irvine have successfully summited Everest, only to meet their end during a desperate descent in the darkness? Act 4. The Missing Camera. The discovery of George Mallory solved one half of the puzzle, but the ultimate mystery now rests on the shoulders of the man who was not found. Andrew Sandy Irvine. His body has never been located on the vast slopes of Everest, and it is with him, most experts believe, that the key to the entire mystery lies. That key is a small, foldable camera, a vest pocket Kodak. Mallory and Irvine were carrying this camera with them on their summit attempt. If they reached the top, it is almost certain they would have taken photographs to document their historic achievement. That camera is now considered the holy grail of mountaineering. Forensic experts believe that due to the extreme cold and dry conditions on Everest, the film inside the camera could still be viable. If Irvine's body and the camera are ever found, and the film is successfully developed, it could provide definitive proof that they were the first to stand on the roof of the world. The search for Irvine and the camera has continued for over 2 decades since Mallory was found. Numerous expeditions have scoured the North Face, following clues and theories about his possible location. There are even tantalizing rumors from Chinese climbers who, during their own expeditions in the 1960s and 70s, claimed to have spotted the body of an old English dead climber, whose location does not match Mallory's. Could this have been Irvine? The Chinese government has never officially confirmed these reports, adding another layer of geopolitical mystery to the story. In the end, we are left with a story that is perhaps more powerful because it is unresolved. George Mallory set out to conquer the last unconquered place on Earth. Whether he succeeded or failed in his final moments does not diminish the sheer scale of his ambition and courage. He pushed the boundaries of human endurance to their absolute limit in an era when the tools of exploration were little more than wool, wood, and iron will. His famous answer to the question of why he wanted to climb Mount Everest, because it's there, has become the ultimate expression of the human spirit's desire to explore, to achieve, and to confront the unknown. The mystery he left behind on the summit of Everest is not just about who was first. It's a timeless story of ambition, sacrifice, and the eternal allure of the world's highest places. Did Mallory and Irvine conquer Everest in 1924? Share your theory in the comments below. And for more of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Dark Cell Stories.